Have you ever stopped to think about how our own mind can sabotage us and take us away from the path we have planned? Imagine this. You decide to change to a healthy lifestyle, to create new habits, to transform your routine. With determination, you set yourself clear goals. Start exercising regularly. Eat better, going to bed earlier. At first, you feel that motivating energy, the certainty that you will achieve your goals. But as time goes by, something starts to change. You feel a weight that you can't explain. Small delays become big excuses. You promise you'll start on Monday, but when the day comes, something happens. You feel tired, discouraged, or even overwhelmed. And once again, you give up. This situation, so common for many, is an example of how we can be our own saboteurs. We plan, we wish, we believe, and yet something inside us creates invisible barriers. It's as if we're fighting against ourselves, against forces we don't even understand. This internal struggle can frustrate us deeply, leading to inevitable questions. Why do we do this? Why, for no apparent reason, do we give up on our own goals? The famous Swiss psychiatrist Carl Jung dedicated his life to the study of the human unconscious and revealed profound truths about this issue. For Jung, self-sabotaging behavior is often a manifestation of what he called the shadow. But what is the shadow? According to Jung, the shadow is the part of our unconscious where we hide everything we don't want to face. Aspects of our personality that we reject or repress, traits that we don't consider acceptable to ourselves or to society. These repressed traits don't disappear, however. They remain hidden, out of the light of our consciousness, but they are still alive. And most of the time, they end up influencing our thoughts, decisions, and behavior in a silent, almost invisible way. When we try to change, when we seek new paths, these hidden aspects can emerge as forces that divert us, creating resistance and self-sabotage. Imagine that your mind is like a house. The conscious part of your mind is the living room, well lit and organized. But the shadow is like a basement where you store everything you'd rather forget. The problem is that if this basement isn't looked after, the objects stored there can start to influence the whole house. The shadow works in the same way. It affects your choices, even if you don't realize it. Why do we repress parts of ourselves? Jung explained that it starts in childhood. As we grow up, we learn what is acceptable and what is not acceptable to others. If, for example, a child shows intense emotions and their parents scold them, they may learn to repress these emotions. Those parts of their personality considered wrong or undesirable are thrown into the basement of the mind. But they don't disappear. Throughout life, these repressed parts can emerge in unexpected ways, such as procrastination, discouragement, or even physical symptoms like headaches or fatigue. Jung had a powerful phrase, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it destiny." This means that as long as we ignore the shadow, it will continue to influence our decisions in an unconscious way, taking us away from our goals and leaving us with the feeling that we have no control over our lives. Let's explore this further. Imagine a person who decides to start exercising regularly. They know it's important for their health. They are motivated, committed. But as the days go by, she starts to feel resistance. The alarm goes off, but she feels too tired to get up. She finds excuses not to go to the gym, such as unexpected appointments or urgent tasks. Deep down, she may be dealing with an unconscious fear of failure. Perhaps at some point in her life, she has believed that she is not capable of achieving goals. This fear, hidden in the shadow, prevents her from moving forward. The shadow, however, is not only made up of negative traits. Jung reminds us that the shadow also holds repressed talents, potentials that we don't explore out of fear or insecurity. But as long as these aspects remain hidden, they manifest in distorted ways, creating internal conflicts and hindering our progress. This concept of internal conflict is not unique to Jung. Other philosophers and psychologists have also explored this idea. Friedrich Nietzsche, for example, talked about the eternal return, the idea that we repeat patterns in our lives, often without realizing it. These patterns, according to Nietzsche, may reflect our fear of change, even when we want something new. Sigmund Freud, Jung's contemporary, approached repression as a defense mechanism. For Freud, when we repress traces or memories, they don't disappear but remain in the unconscious, influencing our behavior. Self-sabotage in this context would be a way of avoiding facing these repressed parts, protecting ourselves from emotional discomfort. Albert Camus, for his part, reflected on the conflict between the human search for meaning and the apparent indifference of the universe, what he called the absurd. This conflict can generate internal resistance, a feeling of uselessness that leads us to abandon our goals. To understand and overcome self-sabotage, Jung proposed a path, integrating the shadow. Instead of further repressing the hidden aspects, he suggested that we should bring these elements into the light of consciousness. This requires courage, self-knowledge, and often professional help. But how do we do this? Jung believed that dreams are a window into the unconscious. Analyzing dream symbols can reveal parts of our shadow. Practices such as meditation and reflective writing also help to explore repressed thoughts and emotions. By integrating these hidden aspects, we are not only facing our fears and insecurities, we are reconciling with parts of ourselves that have been neglected. Jung called this process individuation, which is the path to becoming whole, to uniting the opposites within our psyche, the conscious and the unconscious, the light and the shadow. This process is challenging, but it is also profoundly liberating. When we can recognize the shadow, it no longer controls us. Instead, it becomes an ally in our personal growth. Imagine again that woman who suffered rejection in childhood. She wants a loving relationship, but her past experiences have created an unconscious fear of abandonment. This fear, hidden in the shadows, causes her to sabotage her chances of intimacy by pushing away the people she loves. Jung would explain that, in order to break this cycle, she needs to confront this fear. Perhaps she needs to revisit the painful memories of her childhood to understand how they have shaped her view of herself and others. In doing so, she begins to bring this repressed aspect into the light, integrating it into her consciousness. But this process is not linear. Confronting the shadow can be uncomfortable, even frightening. This is because by illuminating the dark corners of our mind, we face not only our vulnerabilities, but also our contradictions. We often realize that parts of us that we thought were bad are actually sources of strength and learning. That's when transformation takes place. Jung offers us a powerful example. He says that the shadow is not only negative, it can also contain repressed talents, potential that we fail to explore out of fear or insecurity. Imagine someone who has repressed their creativity because, at some point in their life, they were discouraged by other people. This creativity, hidden in the shadows, can manifest itself as frustration, irritability, or a feeling of stagnation. By integrating this part, the person rediscovers their ability to create, unlocking a source of personal fulfillment. Other thinkers have also addressed this duality within us. Nietzsche, for example, spoke of the importance of accepting internal chaos in order to find order. In his words, you have to have chaos within you to give birth to a dancing star. He believed that by embracing our contradictions, we find the balance we need to grow. In addition, Freud explored the idea that our unconscious mind holds repressed desires, which often manifest themselves in dreams, lapses, or seemingly inexplicable behavior. For Freud, understanding these desires is essential to overcoming internal conflicts. By observing our own self-sabotage, we can apply these concepts in practice. For example, if you notice that you constantly procrastinate, ask yourself, what am I really avoiding? What fear or insecurity is hidden behind this behavior? Often, the answer may surprise you. You may discover that you are afraid of failure or even success because it would bring responsibilities that you don't feel ready to take on. If you're enjoying this content and think it's helping you to reflect on how your mind can sabotage you, please like the video here. This helps a lot for this content to reach more people. And on that note, I want to know your opinion. Have you ever noticed a moment when your own mind sabotaged you and prevented you from achieving a goal? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to read and discuss it with you. To deal with these issues, practices such as meditation and journaling, reflective writing, can be powerful tools. Meditation helps you observe your thoughts and emotions without judgment, allowing unconscious aspects to surface. Journaling allows you to explore your patterns and fears in a structured way, helping you to identify the elements of your shadow. Another way is to seek support from therapies based on Jungian concepts, such as dream analysis or internal family systems therapy, IFS. These approaches help to explore the mini-selves within us, allowing these repressed aspects to be recognized and integrated. But the process of integrating the shadow does not mean eliminating difficulties. Jung believed that life is a constant dance between light and darkness. He said, "He who looks outwards dreams. He who looks within awakens." By looking inwards, we begin to understand that obstacles are not enemies, but part of a larger process of growth. Now imagine someone who represses their desire for independence because during childhood they were taught to prioritize the expectations of others. This repressed aspect can manifest as resentment or difficulty in making important decisions. By bringing this desire into the light, this person can begin to set healthy boundaries, rediscovering their ability to act according to their own values. This kind of transformation may seem simple, but it requires courage and patience. We often come up against internal resistance because the shadow fears being exposed. This is because by illuminating repressed aspects, we also reveal the pain and trauma associated with them. However, it is in this confrontation that we find true freedom. Jung explained that the process of individuation is not about achieving perfection, but wholeness. It's not about eliminating our imperfections, but embracing them as essential parts of who we are. When we manage to do this, we begin to experience a sense of authenticity and balance. If you feel that you are sabotaging yourself, remember that this is not a sign of weakness. On the contrary, it's an invitation to self-knowledge. Your mind is trying to protect you, however clumsily. By accepting this invitation, you begin to explore the depths of your being, discovering hidden treasures in what previously seemed to be only darkness. As we move forward in this process of self-knowledge, it is important to remember that the journey to integrate the shadow is not something you do all at once. It's a continuous practice, a journey that requires attention and a willingness to face our inner challenges. Jung said that no one is enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making darkness conscious. This means that it's not about ignoring our difficulties or focusing only on positive thoughts, but about understanding and embracing the parts of ourselves that we avoid. Imagine the impact of this process on your life. By integrating the shadow, you begin to notice patterns that were previously invisible. Perhaps you'll discover that that habit of procrastinating isn't just laziness, but a defense mechanism against the fear of making a mistake. Or that difficulty in saying no reflects a repressed need to be accepted. By bringing these perceptions to light, you gain clarity, and with it, the ability to make decisions that are more in line with who you really are. For example, a person who finds it difficult to commit to goals may realize that this is related to an unconscious belief that they are not capable or deserving of success. By identifying this belief, they can begin to question it, bringing a new narrative into their life. Instead of seeing herself as incapable, she can see herself as someone who is in the process of growing, willing to make mistakes and learn. This kind of internal change reflects what Jung called individuation, the process of becoming who you are in essence. He believed that personal fulfillment comes not from following external patterns, but from discovering and living your inner truth. This process, although personal, impacts all areas of life: relationships, work, health, and even the way you see the world. Once you begin to integrate the shadow, something magical happens. The parts of you that once seemed like enemies become allies. That fear that used to paralyze you now turns into courage. Procrastination becomes a reminder to adjust your goals to your reality. Self-sabotage dissolves, giving way to more conscious and intentional actions. However, this transformation is not the end of the journey. Life will always present new challenges, new shadows to be integrated. But by understanding how your mind works and welcoming all parts of yourself, you will be better prepared to face these situations. you will learn to see obstacles as opportunities for growth, rather than insurmountable barriers. And perhaps the greatest lesson of this process is to realize that self-sabotage is not a sign of failure, but a manifestation of something deeper. It shows us where we still need to work, where our wounds are crying out for healing. It's a call to look inwards, to listen to our own soul. Remember, as Jung said, that what we deny subjugates us, but what we accept transforms us. By accepting your shadow, you not only overcome self-sabotage, but you come closer to the totality of who you are. And that wholeness is where the real power lies, the power to live authentically, to pursue your goals with determination, and to create a life that really makes sense to you. Finally, it's worth pointing out that this journey doesn't have to be a lonely one. Seeking help, whether through a therapist, a mentor, or practices such as group meditation, can make all the difference. Sharing your experiences, listening to other people, and learning from them is part of the growth process. After all, we all carry our shadows, and we are all trying to illuminate our paths. So when you realize you're sabotaging yourself, instead of blaming yourself, ask yourself, what is my mind trying to tell me? What part of me is asking to be heard, to be welcomed? By asking these questions, you start an internal dialogue that can transform your life. Because at the end of the day, the greatest act of courage is to face yourself, recognize your shadows, and embrace them as an essential part of who you are. This is the essence of Jung's message, and that of so many other philosophers and psychologists. The path to fulfillment lies not in denying our weaknesses, but in recognizing them and turning them into strengths. The journey is long, but every step is worth it. And when you start to see the changes, you'll realize that the real victory is not in achieving external goals, but in finding peace within yourself. Now that we've reached the end of this journey, I hope this video has helped you understand more about how self-sabotage works and how it can be overcome. If you've learned something new today, don't forget to like the video. And how about sharing it with someone who might also need to hear this message? That way, you'll help bring these reflections to more people, and together, we can turn these shadows into light. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.